The 90s classic horror movies that defined a decade. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel Movie Creepers. The 90s was a unique and transformative time for horror. It saw the rise of innovative subgenres, self-aware horror, and films that pushed boundaries, creating some of the most iconic and unsettling moments in cinematic history. In this video, we're diving deep into 10 standout horror films from the 1990s that not only scared audiences, but also helped redefine the genre. Let's get into it. But before we jump into the exploration, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on future videos. Thank you. Let's begin. New Nightmare, 1994. First up, we have Wes Craven's New Nightmare, 1994. Now, before Scream became the defining horror film of the decade, Craven was already laying the groundwork for meta-horror with New Nightmare. In this installment, Heather Langenkamp plays herself as she confronts a malevolent force that's haunting the creators of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. It's a brilliant, high-concept movie that challenges the very idea of horror films and their impact on both creators and audiences. Freddy isn't just a villain in a slasher film. He becomes a force that transcends fiction and enters the real world. The film examines how violent and frightening movies don't exist in a vacuum. They affect the people who create and consume them. While Scream would perfect this formula, New Nightmare was decades ahead of its time, blending psychological horror with meta-commentary and offering one of Langenkamp's most nuanced performances. Predator 2, 1990. Then we have Predator 2, 1990. The Predator franchise may have started in the jungles of Central America, but Stephen Hopkins' Predator 2 takes the action to the urban jungle of Los Angeles. With Danny Glover in the lead as a tough cop facing off against the alien Predator, this film has gained a cult following for its bold decision to take the series in a completely different direction. No longer are we confined to the dense forests of the first film. Instead, we get a futuristic, crime-ridden city where the Predator hunts among gangsters and law enforcement alike. While it may not have the same iconic face-off between Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Predator, Predator 2 remains the best sequel in the series, bold, brutal, and an underrated gem that's aged remarkably well. In the Mouth of Madness, 1994. Speaking of films that have aged well, let's talk about John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness, 1994. Carpenter is one of the genre's most influential filmmakers, and In the Mouth of Madness serves as the closing chapter of his Apocalypse trilogy. In this supernatural thriller, Sam Neill plays an insurance investigator searching for a missing horror novelist, only to discover that reality and fiction are beginning to blur together. The film's disturbing, slow-burn atmosphere, combined with Neil's increasingly paranoid performance, makes this a deeply unsettling watch. Much like New Nightmare, it's a meta-horror film exploring themes of fiction influencing reality and vice versa. Though the film initially received mixed reviews, it has since become a cult classic, one that's ripe for rediscovery. The Blair Witch Project, 1999. The Blair Witch Project, 1999, took horror into uncharted territory with its found footage approach, which would go on to influence countless films. The movie tells the story of 3 filmmakers who venture into the woods to investigate the legend of the Blair Witch, only to find themselves terrorized by forces beyond their understanding. Shot on a shoestring budget and with a groundbreaking marketing campaign that blurred the lines between reality and fiction, the Blair Witch Project became a cultural phenomenon. It's terrifying not because of what you see, but because of what you don't. The slow-build tension, combined with a sense of dread and hopelessness, made the film an instant classic, proving that you don't need a big budget to create a horrifying experience.
I who serve the cross. I who commanded nations.
Bram Stoker's Dracula, 1992. In stark contrast to the raw, minimalist scares of the Blair Witch Project, Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula, 1992, delivered a grand, gothic, and visually extravagant adaptation of the legendary novel. This film is pure cinematic opulence. Think lavish sets, exaggerated performances, and Oscar-winning makeup effects. Gary Oldman's portrayal of Dracula is nothing short of iconic, and his tragic, romantic take on the character adds layers to what could have been a simple monster movie. Winona Ryder, Keanu Reeves, and Anthony Hopkins round out the cast, adding star power to this film, which blends horror with a deep exploration of love, lust, and immortality. While some purists might favor earlier versions, Coppola's Dracula stands as the definitive adaptation of the novel, bold, bloody, and unabashedly theatrical. Audition 1999. Next, we have Takashi Miike's Audition 1999, one of the most disturbing films ever made. At first glance, Audition seems like a slow-burning romance. A widowed father holds auditions to find a new wife, only to be entranced by a mysterious woman. But as the film progresses, the true horror of her character unfolds in a truly shocking and grotesque manner. Audition is a film that builds its tension quietly, lulling you into a false sense of security, before delivering some of the most gut-wrenching and disturbing sequences in horror. The film's body horror and psychological terror make it an unforgettable experience, a must-watch for anyone looking to explore the darker side of Asian horror cinema. Candyman 1992. Candyman 1992, directed by Bernard Rose, takes a chilling urban legend and turns it into a potent social commentary on gentrification, racism, and the power of myth. Tony Todd's portrayal of the supernatural killer Candyman has become one of the most iconic horror performances of all time, and his tragic backstory adds a layer of depth to the character. The film follows a college student, played by Virginia Madsen, who is drawn into the legend of Candyman as she investigates a string of murders in Chicago's Cabrini Green housing projects. What could have been just another slasher becomes a thought-provoking exploration of fear, power, and legacy.
God's sake.
It's for the best.
Eddie, please!
Misery 1990. Misery 1990 is one of the most celebrated Stephen King adaptations. Directed by Rob Reiner, the film is an absolute masterclass in psychological horror. James Caan plays Paul Sheldon, a novelist who's taken captive by his #1 fan, Annie Wilkes, played by the unforgettable Kathy Bates. Locked in a remote cabin, Paul's survival becomes a battle of wits and willpower as Annie's sanity unravels. Bates' performance is so chilling that it earned her an Academy Award for Best Actress, a rarity for a horror film. The tension in Misery is palpable, and every moment feels like a countdown to something terrible. It's a claustrophobic and haunting thriller that leaves an indelible mark on the viewer. Scream 1996. One of the most significant films in the slasher genre, and arguably the entire horror landscape, is Wes Craven's Scream 1996. This film revived the slasher genre and took it in a fresh, self-aware direction. With its snappy dialogue, witty characters, and shocking kills, Scream became an instant classic. The film follows Sidney Prescott, Neve Campbell, a high schooler targeted by a killer who seems to know all the rules of slasher films. It's a horror movie that's not afraid to poke fun at itself while still delivering genuine scares. The success of Scream reinvigorated the genre and introduced a new era of horror, one that blended dark humor with genuine terror. It was the perfect storm of pop culture awareness, great performances, and a sharp script. The Silence of the Lambs, 1991. And lastly, we have Jonathan Demme's The Silence of the Lambs, 1991, a film that transcended the horror genre and became a cultural milestone. Jodie Foster's portrayal of FBI trainee Clarice Starling and Anthony Hopkins' performance as the enigmatic Dr. Hannibal Lecter are nothing short of legendary. The film's ability to blend psychological horror with a procedural thriller while exploring deep themes of power, manipulation, and trauma set it apart from other films in the genre. The fact that The Silence of the Lambs won multiple Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor, speaks to its greatness. It's a movie that continues to be celebrated, and its influence can still be seen in horror and thriller films today. The final takeaway: the 1990s were a time of innovation and reinvention in horror. From the meta-commentary of New Nightmare to the psychological terror of The Silence of the Lambs, these films shaped the genre and left a lasting legacy. Whether you're a fan of slasher films, supernatural thrillers, or disturbing body horror, the 1990s offered something for everyone, and its impact on horror is still felt to this day. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content on Severance. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.
Hey, you want it? You want it? Eat it! Eat it with yourself!